Yo, what is poppin'? It's your boy Whiteout, and today we are going to be answering the question, can you upload your mind and live forever? Now think about it. Just think about it for a second. Elon Musk is coming out with a Neuralink. Could you potentially upload your mind and your consciousness into a different being? Well, it doesn't actually state consciousness in the title, so I don't know if that's going to be a thing. You might be able just to like upload your memory or something. But is that really you at that point? Well, I guess we're going to dive into those questions today when we watch Can You Upload Your Mind and Live Forever? Let's lock in and let's get 1% smarter.
The desire to be free from the limits of the human experience is as old as our first stories. We exist in an endless universe, only bound by the laws of physics, and yet our consciousness is trapped in mortal machines made of meat. With the breathtaking explosion of innovation and progress, for the first time, the concept of leaving our flesh piles behind and uploading our minds into a digital utopia seems possible, even like the logical next step on our evolutionary ladder.
Interesting.
Upload what exactly? Mind is one of those words that are really hard to define. It's thought to be the collective abilities of your consciousness and intelligence, the thing that lets you imagine, recognize, and dream. Mind uploading is the hypothetical concept of making a copy of this inner world and transferring it into a computer to run a simulation of your consciousness. But even defining the premise gets really hard, really fast. The possibility of mind uploading is based on 3 assumptions. Assumption 1. Your mind is in your brain's structure, arrangement, and biochemistry. The idea that everything about the mind can be found in the brain is called physicalism, and it keeps our discussion within the domain of natural law. Assumption 2. At some point, we will understand the brain well enough and possess the technology to simulate all of its aspects to make a digital mind copy.
Is that technically what AI does now? Because AI is semi-conscious, let's be for real, right? I mean, obviously we're not taking somebody's brain. They might have. Honestly, they might have. Wouldn't surprise me. But we're not taking somebody's brain. But are we making an artificial brain through that because it's able to think for itself, it's able to probably do stuff for itself. So in a sense, have we already made artificial sentience? Let me know what you think, because I think so. I think we have.
Assumption 3. Computer software can host your mind, which means the mind is computable. There is no physical property in the brain, including consciousness, that cannot be simulated accurately, even if it requires a lot of code. All of these assumptions have been proposed and challenged by scientists and philosophers, and they remain the subject of passionate debate. With so many fundamental questions still unanswered, it's hard to discuss the topic without annoying someone. Whatever your position, every discussion of mind upload has to begin with the brain. The brain in a nutshell. The brain is the most complex biological structure known and deserves its own entire video, so let's just take a brief look at it. Around 100 billion neurons are communicating via 1 million billion connections that are sending signals up to 1,000 times each second, which is 1 quadrillion events every second of your waking life. And it's not just neurons, there are billions of supporting and immune cells of various types performing different jobs. On a macro level, the brain can be divided into sections with different roles, from breathing and heart rate to coordinating movement and involuntary reflexes.
Does anybody else hate thinking about that? Because I think about lungs expanding, and then I'm thinking about my lungs expanding, and then I just feel like everything's crashing down on me from the outside. I don't know if that's what everybody feels like. Maybe a small portion of people. I know at least a few people feel that way when they see stuff like that and they think about it.
The most developed parts, the neocortex, or the outermost layer of the brain, hold memories, our ability to plan, think and imagine, hope and dream. Where exactly the you part of the brain is situated is not entirely clear. We know that areas like the precuneus cortex have the greatest influence on our consciousness, but also that several areas can network together to share tasks none of them can do alone. The brain's building blocks are not exactly simple either. Neurons are not just wires, they alter and process information. Synapses, where signals are handed over from one neuron to the next, contain receptors for hundreds of chemical signals, opening them up to outside influence. We have a basic understanding of how these work, and we can accurately predict their behavior at small scales, but there's a lot more to the brain than just nerve signals. Hormones play a huge role, like serotonin, which affects our mood, or histamine, which helps us learn. The brain is influenced by our other parts too, from heart nerves to gut bacteria. What seemed like a very complicated system to begin with gets even more complicated the more we learn about it. To get this wildly interconnected mess of cells and meat and chemicals into a computer, we need a model that we can simulate in our digital world. Some sort of scan. Unfortunately, our scanning technology, like fMRI machines, is not nearly good enough to attempt such a thing.
One thing that I think is crazy is we can't even use our full brain capacity, or like our full brain like limitability. We can't use that. Like we only, I think, use, what is it, like 20% of our brain, not even. Like that's why, like, when people take psychedelics and stuff, they end up using a lot more of like their frontal lobe and like all the side lobes and internal lobes and stuff. And it's because they sit there and those, I guess, like trigger your brain. So that's why, like, you see stuff wildly and like all these hallucinations and stuff, because you're using more. It's like when you take what is it, I call it ayahuasca. It's like that's like what your brain produces naturally, and that could be like something like that gives you dreams potentially, because they really don't know what dreams are about either. But not only could it be, something for that, it's like when you die, that's what your brain kind of goes off in. Which I have a theory, which was maybe you go into like a DMT trip for the rest of your life after you pass away using the ayahuasca, and like their quote unquote hell is like, let's say you die really quick, like through like a gun or something like that, and your brain just shuts off like that. It doesn't have enough time to produce the DMT, so like then it kind of goes to a nothingness void. I always wondered about that. I don't know if anybody else has ever thought about that, but let me know. But it's just interesting to think about how we don't even use our full brain to like its maximum capacity.
But there is a different method that seems very promising. Cutting a brain into tiny slices and scanning them with a high-resolution electron microscope to create an accurate map of all the cells and connections. In 2019, scientists successfully mapped a cubic millimeter of mouse brain, roughly the size of a big grain of sand.
That's it.
It contained 100,000 neurons with 1 billion synapses and 4 kilometers of nerve fibers. This grain of brain was cut into 25,000 slices. 5 electron microscopes ran continuously for 5 months, collecting more than 100 million images. It took 3 months to assemble the images into a 3D model. The completed dataset fills up 2 million gigabytes of cloud storage.
Holy crap.
To scan a whole human brain, we would have to repeat this effort 1 million times, which is much easier said than done.
Whoa.
Even worse, to correctly simulate a brain, we might even have to map out much smaller building blocks to include the billions of underlying proteins or even individual molecules that cause all the behaviors we see at the cellular level, which might produce more data than the capacity of all data storage on Earth. Brain water to consciousness wine. While all of these issues are annoying, the real question is how we turn the static blueprint of the brain into an active thing. Even if we have a scan, down to the level of synapses, we need laws and rules that animate the wiring diagram to endow this static structure with life, update it with the various laws of chemical binding, of electrodynamics to animate the simulation. So it becomes a dynamic active thing like a brain that exists from 1 microsecond to the next, that can evolve in time, think, see, and act. The reality is that we just don't know if this is possible to achieve. If our technology can give rise to real minds. It all hinges on the nature of the problem. Are the brain and mind just complicated and a lot of work to figure out? Or are they complex in a way that we can't solve?
Do you think we could solve the brain? I don't know. It seems pretty impossible, but I don't know anything. I don't even know if I have a brain half the time. Like, honestly, like, it's just thinking about it, right? And, like, understanding the brain. how can you understand what is literally no, I guess that doesn't make sense. I was gonna say, how do you understand what's in your body? But I guess that makes sense. How do you understand fully, like, what consciousness is when consciousness isn't even like consciousness isn't an organ? Could there be consciousness somewhere in the brain that makes it? Yeah. Could it be the soul? Yeah. But like, the soul isn't like a physical organ in your body, right? Oh, it's so weird to think about.
In the worst case, consciousness is more than the sum of the parts of the brain in a way that we don't realize yet. Complex in a way that we can't solve by getting better scans. Just having a list of the ingredients might not be enough to get a good consciousness cake. Right now, we have a great starting point with tangible scientific results and an end goal, but the road to true simulation is unclear and requires a lot of innovation and research. Humans have historically been horrible at predicting the pace of progress. In the best case, it's just a matter of doing the work and finding the right solutions. It might not be necessary to simulate every last cell down to the last atom. Instead, it may be possible to simplify elements into probabilistic models that could match the behavior of the brain using a more manageable number of simpler systems. So we really don't know if we will ever understand our brain and consciousness well enough to upload human minds. But the science is real and worth pursuing. At the very least, we will just learn a lot about ourselves and develop a bunch of new technologies. If we succeed, this might put mind uploading well within the capabilities of our rapidly progressing computer technology. The consequences for humanity and our future in this universe are vast, creepy, and amazing. The copy. Successful mind uploading is functional immortality. Unless damaged or deleted, you will continue to exist as long as a copy is stored somewhere. Of course.
So this is kind of like the Matrix thing, because if you guys have ever seen the Matrix movie, it's kind of like they're all in pods, and it's like a copy of them is placed into this quote-unquote Matrix, in a sense.
Of course, if the scan is corrupted in any of a myriad of ways, your mind might get corrupted too. You might be in an eternity of pain or paranoia, or having an endless psychotic breakdown. The question if this digital mind is you opens another whole can of worms. For now, we'll just assume that your digital mind at least feels like it's you. How would mind uploading change your outlook on life? Will you feel safer knowing that death is not necessarily the end?
But you still have to be worried, like let's say a power outage comes, you still have to be worried about that. So technically you could still die, or is there like a backup reboot where it kind of just like a blink for a second is like, you blink and it's like, okay, cool, like, you know, I'm back now type deal. I don't know. It's
or
so
would you
weird.
try to be super safe to avoid dying before your mind is uploaded? If scanning technology does become advanced enough, your biological and digital versions could coexist.
That'd be sick.
You could help each other out by making your biological lifespan more enjoyable and the future of the copy more secure. Whatever happens, your mind copy will begin a completely new life once it opens their digital eyes for the first time. Having a functional body is actually quite nice, and you're pretty used to it.
I would
Food.
butt so much. I would butt heads with myself so much. Oh my god. If I had a digital copy of my brain, we would get into fist fights so much. Like, I wouldn't be able to put up with myself. Are you serious? Imagine that. Imagine if you had it, like, people might be like, oh, I have, like, a bunch of ideas, right? Like, oh, they'll go to work for me and stuff. If you don't want to go to work, they don't want to go to work. And then you guys are fighting over who gets to go to work. Maybe you could split it up. You do 1 day a week, I do 1 day a week, or 1 day, you do 1 day, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's just the sheer factor of, like, you would probably end up butting heads with yourself way more often than you expect.
Food, love, pain, and exhaustion, all of these things are parts of us that we must live with. But in the end, they are the result of neurons firing in your brain. So while you could decide to live in a simulated body, it might be optional for a digital mind. Falling in love might lose meaning if you can have it at the press of a button. Instead,
True.
you might end up searching for new, extraordinary experiences.
Might fall in love with
Walk on
yourself.
the surface of the sun. Speed up time to skip past a few boring months. experience a simulation of the past. Your perspectives and priorities will change as you continue to exist in this liberated form. The longer digital minds exist, eventually they will likely gain greater knowledge of themselves and an ability to change their own contents. This can be as simple as deleting a memory that bugs you. You might change aspects of your personality, like grudges, addictions, or laziness. Without the constraints of biology, your abilities might move up as technology progresses, while your priorities or goals might become more and more foreign to your original brain if it's still alive. Waking up to the true potential of digital immortality will be gradual. You can start projects that would take more than a lifetime to complete. Scientists could accumulate an incredible amount of knowledge, leading to discoveries that could revolutionize the world. Adventurers could upload themselves onto small spaceships and embark on journeys to the stars, just putting themselves on pause for thousands of years at a time.
Yeah, like a
Although
hypersleep.
it's unlikely that every digital mind will work for the benefit of humanity, since our current meat versions don't do that either. Some will seek power and influence and will have a literal eternity of trying to create empires. Others will begin hoarding as many resources for themselves as possible as they compete with other minds trying to do the same. The longer they live, the less sympathy they may feel for simple meat beings. Or imagine immortal cult leaders who propagate lies and invent religions, fine-tuning and perfecting their dogma over hundreds of years. Or perhaps none of all that. Maybe our minds are not made for immortality, and digital minds will just become rigid and unproductive and retire after a very long life, having experienced everything they could ever want to. It's hard to predict how much good or bad a self-improving mind could do with hundreds or thousands of years of free time. And now, we'd like to tell you.
I wonder if, is this just the advertisement all at the end? They usually do, yeah, they do the advertisement at the end. I wonder if, right, for example, your mind, if that's one thing that, like, you sit down and you think about, like, can it last forever? Can you upload it? Will there ever be a time to it? I know that's what he's kind of asking in this, but it's like, if you genuinely think about that, like, would you want your mind to be kind of living on? Because is it you? And I know he said that's a whole nother can of worms that they're not going to get into, but, like, is it you? That's the question. Is it you? Because if you ever see that movie Mickey 17, right, he gets a copy of himself, and then I think it was like, spoilies if you haven't seen it, but if you have, he gets a copy of himself and he's 17, and then 18 prints because he ends up not dying, and it's like, okay, now he doesn't want to die. Now he's like, he realizes what life is. And it's just like the thought process of that, like, if it is just copies of yourself, in a sense, is it truly you? And if it's not you, if it is somebody else, then with just your memories, will they ever be you? Because every time that he got printed out, it was something different. It's a crazy thought to think about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And let me know if you guys would get your mind copied if you had the opportunity to, and what you would do with that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys haven't already, make sure you absolutely smash that like button. Honestly, it's pretty crazy if you haven't. I mean, my brain can't even comprehend why you wouldn't, but maybe you have a good excuse. But if you don't, it can be fixed. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, because if you haven't, what are you doing, bro? Just subscribe, join the Whiteout Army. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.